Welcome. Here is your look at the major global stories from the past 24 hours. So, what can just one day tell us about where the world is heading? Well, a lot, actually. The world is always in motion, and we're about to see a snapshot of that. From high-stakes political moves and international competition to unfolding domestic crises, the last 24 hours have really been packed. All right, first up, let's turn to the geopolitical flashpoints, where tensions are running high and the stakes are, well, even higher. Our first stop is Moscow, where a pretty shocking attack has rocked Russia's military leadership. So here's what we know. Vladimir Alexev, who's a deputy head of the GRU, that's Russia's powerful military intelligence agency, was shot right outside his apartment. He's reportedly in critical condition. Now, Russian officials are already pointing the finger at Ukrainian intelligence, but so far, no group has actually stepped forward to claim responsibility.
Okay, so from that intense situation in Eastern Europe, let's shift gears and head over to the Middle East, specifically to Oman, where some very delicate talks have been taking place.
This is interesting. The indirect talks between the US and Iran about the nuclear program have wrapped up, but it's like they were in two different meetings. The US is calling it a good start. Hopeful. But Iran? A totally different story. Their spokesperson talked about a wall of mistrust and said the talks are basically off, for now. So where this all goes from here is, frankly, anyone's guess. And not too far away in Gaza, a very fragile ceasefire is being put to the test in a really serious way. Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 32 people in the Gaza Strip. Israel's military says they were targeting Hamas militants and weapons, citing what one official called blatant violations of the ceasefire. But Egypt, which is a key mediator here, has condemned the strikes, calling them repeated violations by Israel. You can see the truce is under enormous strain. All right, let's move on to the world stage now, where we saw both incredible competition and some major international cooperation. And what a match it was in the Australian Open women's final. Elena Rybakina managed to defeat Aryna Sabalenka in a 3-set nail-biter. I mean, look at these stats. So close across the board. But the key difference? It really came down to those high-pressure moments. Rybakina capitalized on half of her breakpoint chances, while Sabalenka only managed to convert a quarter of hers. That right there was the game changer. And this is a big deal for her. This win marks Rybakina's second major title, really cementing her status as one of the top players in the game.
So we go from the summer heat of Melbourne's tennis courts to the ice and snow of Italy.
That's right, the 2026 Winter Olympics have officially begun. The opening ceremony was pretty spectacular, with a really unique format spread across both Milan and Cortina. They even lit 2 separate Olympic cauldrons. We saw performances from global stars like Mariah Carey and Andrea Bocelli. And there was a bit of diplomacy, too, with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance meeting Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. So while the Olympics are all about global unity through sport, another kind of international partnership is being forged through trade, this time in the Americas. The US and Argentina just inked a major new trade deal. What does it do? Well, it gets rid of tariffs on over 200 goods. One thing you might notice is more Argentine beef in US stores. Politically, this move also brings the government of Argentine President Javier Milei into a closer alignment with the current US administration. Hey, just a quick pause here. If you're finding these updates useful, we'd really appreciate it if you could hit the like button and subscribe. It helps us keep bringing you these daily summaries. Okay, let's now turn our attention to some stories hitting closer to home, starting with some really tragic news out of Pakistan. In Islamabad, a terrible attack has claimed the lives of at least 31 people. Here's what happened. A suicide bomber attacked a Shiite mosque during Friday prayers. In addition to the 31 people killed, nearly 170 were wounded. This is now being called the deadliest attack to hit the Pakistani capital in more than a decade. Switching gears now, the World Health Organization is making an urgent appeal for a huge amount of money. We're talking $1 billion. So why the big appeal? The WHO needs this funding for life-saving healthcare in the world's worst crisis zones. They're sounding the alarm because international funding has been dropping off sharply. The aid is specifically earmarked for critical areas like Gaza, Sudan, and Ukraine. And to round things out, a few important updates from the United States. First, a major national security development. A key participant from that deadly 2012 attack on the U.S. compound in Benghazi is now in custody. Second,
A man who was pardoned for his role in the Capitol riot has now pleaded guilty to threatening House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And finally, a social media post from President Trump about the Obamas was taken down after a lot of public backlash.
So let's step back for a moment and look at the big picture of the day. You know, when you look at it all together, it was really a day of incredible contrast, wasn't it? On one hand, you have these tense diplomatic situations and outbreaks of violence. And on the other, you have these amazing moments of athletic triumph celebrated by the whole world. Then you have these heartbreaking local tragedies alongside urgent global calls for help. It's just a powerful reminder of how complex and connected our world truly is. And that's our summary of the day's news. We'll have another update for you in 24 hours.